Welcome to Weather to Watch, the last Sunday of 2025, and we've got quite the transition going on in the central U.S. after days of record highs in the central and southern plains. That's going to come to an abrupt end as an Arctic blast moves in. It'll still be warm in the southeast for a little bit, and in the transition zone, pretty stormy, especially around the Great Lakes area. Combined effect, a low pressure area, and also lake effect snows. Let's dive into it. Welcome. I'm meteorologist Ted Keller, recording this a little early on this Sunday so we can get it all in here. We do have a severe weather threat today. That's kind of one of the reasons why I put this out a little earlier than I normally do. We'll take a look at the visible satellite loop on this Sunday. This is recorded about late morning or so. You can see the sunrise across everywhere but the extreme northwest part of the country. And certainly the highlight of the entire image is this storm system right here, causing a variety of problems. On the winter side especially, and maybe a little bit on the spring storm side. We'll take a closer look at that in a minute. Here's the 500 millibar flow overlaid on top of that. Big low in the upper atmosphere here over the Dakotas, and a huge flow around that. Sharp trough of low pressure diving in. This is the ridge of high pressure that created all the warmth that's being pushed out now and being replaced by this area here. If we look at the surface map, now this is model data, so it's approximating what things will look like at noon. It's probably a little rushed on that front, but not by much, actually. So this is a seriously cold Arctic air mass right here. This low is up and coming and developing. I'll show you a loop of where that's going here in a second. And the colors on this map are temperatures. And we can just take a closer look at the readings here. So while it was 70 in my town here of Springfield at 10 a.m. In Ainsworth, Nebraska, it was 6. And in Pierre, South Dakota, it was 5. And so quite a stark contrast in temperature. And so this front slamming through, even locally here, you can see along the front, the highest temperature I see on here is 73. That's in Mountain Home, Arkansas. And already you get to Kansas City, it drops to 39. So it's going to be a huge slap in the face, cold air push for sure. That doesn't quite do it. It's quite a cold front, actually. If we look at the radar loop, so all this back here is going to be snow. You can kind of tell snow. It has that banded appearance a lot of times. Not always, but a lot of times. We'll take a closer look at the radar in this area here and talk about the severe weather potential. And this area, generally speaking, is going to receive a lot of snow over the next couple days. And here is one of the reasons why. When I went to meteorology school, cyclogenesis was always the fun word to use, right? So cyclogenesis just means the genesis of a cyclone, and that just means the formation of a low pressure area, basically. So this is the NAM model of what this will look like right around the recording of this video, and it's pretty accurate. It does show snow in the back end here. Not much of a freezing rain or sleet. It's a pretty sharp transition line right there. And then some of these maybe thunderstorms that are developing in this area. There already are some. The model's underdoing that a little bit. By 6 p.m., a squall line forms as that low moves from here to here, and it deepens. And you can see the isobars are getting tightly packed together. They always cross the isobars toward low pressure, so they're doing something like this. And it's a pretty windy condition here with wind gusts over 40 and 50 miles per hour expected in this area as that low continues. That's at 6 p.m. the day of this recording, Sunday. By midnight Sunday, this low is up around basically Lake Huron. A lot of snow blowing in behind that. And then once we get this low moving on, we start to get lake effect snows kick in. That's what you're seeing right here and right here. And so we'll get to the snow in a minute. Let's talk about the slight chance for severe storms. It's notable, maybe even a weak tornado threat. Let's dive into that. Well, this is the severe weather outlook issued by the Storm Prediction Center, one of our national centers that watches for severe weather of the spring type. We're very fortunate to have this as part of our working atmospheric NOAA's department and just watching the weather always for hazards. This is a level 2 out of 5 risk, so it's what we still refer to, I think, as a slight risk. This is a marginal risk, this green area here. And remember the line of thunderstorms at 6 p.m. was forecast to be about right there on the cyclogenesis charts. So that's the area we're going to be watching. And there is a rather interesting tornado threat with this. It does exist, and in fact 5%, which actually for this time of year is pretty impressive. 2% surrounding that. So basically we're watching this squall line as it develops and maybe some individual cells that often occur before it actually forms a line that could cause the problems here today. If we take a look at CSU's severe thunderstorm probabilities, it kind of agrees. It puts that 5% just about in the same area. With a hail and wind threat, the line itself will produce a heavy wind threat, severe weather threat. Hail is probably not too much of a concern. If we look at one more thing, NATO cast, it agrees. Well, actually, it diminishes the percentage just a little bit, but it's a highly focused 3% chance right off to the east of Champaign-Urbana there in Illinois, right around the Illinois-Indiana border. So there is some support for this. Let's take a look at the radar. Now, keep in mind, like all these videos that I produce, I usually do not zoom in like this because it's a timestamp issue. So this was 11 a.m. on Sunday morning, 11:10 to be precise. So there was a severe thunderstorm warning in effect for this cluster of storms. And again, so as this continues to develop and move like this through that higher risk area, that's where maybe one of these storms could develop a rotation. It's not a real good chance, to be honest with you, but there's a severe weather threat for sure. But as of this recording, which is about 11:15 Central, no watches had been issued for this as of yet. And I did want to show you the Gulf coastal regions. Now, this is the NIU Supercell Composite Outlook. When you start showing up in the 30 percentiles there, it's actually fairly substantial. So coastal Texas, southeast Texas, in the period January 4th through the 10th, this is looking 2 weeks out, has a little bit of a marker there. So that's something to be watching for. Is that unusual for winter for that part of the world? Nope. Anywhere from here to here could be a severe weather zone easily in the winter months for the deep south. Combination of snow, wind, and cold has caused the issuance of a blizzard warning from Fargo into northern Iowa. Winter storm warning for the metropolitan area of Minneapolis, close to a blizzard condition there. This doesn't get down into Chicago, but Milwaukee's kind of on the edge of a winter weather advisory. Northern and central Wisconsin under a winter storm warning, and a blizzard warning in effect for this area here. This is a combination of the snows whipping in behind the cyclogenesis and for the ensuing lake effect snows that will occur when those northwest winds blow over the relatively warm waters of Lake Superior. Also, they just recently extended some of this into central northern Michigan, and certainly they're looking for snows, again, lake effect snows there on the eastern shore of Lake Michigan. And this storm continues to progress, so a winter weather advisory basically for New England, except for coastal areas of Massachusetts, Rhode Island, and Connecticut, and some winter storm warnings in effect. Again, a combination of lake effect snows and also just the snow you would expect on the back end of a low pressure area. So over the next basically 72 hours through 7 a.m. Wednesday, they're looking at about 18 to 24 inches of snow in the Lake Superior snow belt. The low pressure center itself will produce probably a good 8+ inch snow swath, and you can see these areas around Lake Erie and Lake Ontario. Again, you can tell by the way this is shaped. So the winds are forecast to become more like this. So when you have a fetch across Lake Erie that doesn't give it enough time to pick up much moisture and instability, you tend to get a snow squall area shaped like the lake. Whereas if it's longer, like a finger like that, that means the winds that are going to be blowing will have more fetch, if you will, over the waters, so that will increase. So this looks like it's a lake effect snow event and will be strong, but the strongest ones are reserved for winds that blow across the length of both of those lakes, and that does not appear largely to be the case with this. If we take a look at a closer look here, here's Marquette, Michigan. That's why the UP of Michigan is a low population area, because this time of year, almost guaranteed, they're going to get feet and feet and feet of snow in some of these areas almost every winter. And then there's let's close up there. There's Buffalo, so it'll be south Buffalo around, here's Erie, so kind of between Buffalo and Erie. There's also some topographic effects that occur here that enhance those snow totals quite a bit, some hills that can lift the air and enhance that a little bit. And again, so this is a little bit more of a finger pattern, so I think the lake fetch might be a little longer there. And then looking out into early January, the 4th through the 10th, same time period as that severe weather supercell outlook. Again, and this has been the case pretty much from November through now, the main snow threat areas have been here. There was a brief time in November when it was around here, and then the mountain areas out to the west. Let's take a look at the pattern change and see if this Arctic blast is going to last. And the answer is no, not for the majority of the country. So this is the average 500 millibar flow. The mean anomaly just means how far below or above are these lines, which are basically height lines, but they indicate wind flow, basically. And this is the average over 7 days, beginning tomorrow, Monday, the 29th. And so the northeast U.S. and the Great Lakes still in enough flow to get Arctic air pushing through here, but these were the record high areas. That's being replaced quickly today, but it's going to bounce right back. In fact, if you look at the temperature anomalies for getting from Missouri and Iowa westward, it's all going to be slightly above normal, maybe much above normal in the Intermountain West, and the real cold air is going to be locked up in Canada and just kind of impinge, I guess you could say, rather, on parts of Minnesota, the Great Lakes, and parts of New England as well. And the snowfall rates are just non-existent through the central U.S., and lake effect basically is what accounts for most of that. Even the snows out in the mountains, at least for this week, are going to taper back quite a bit. Now, toward the end of this pattern, about a week from today, I think it'll get wet and snowy in California once again. Let's take a look at the details of those temperature drops. Here's the high temperature map on Monday. The numbers are the highs, so it'll only be 25 in Chicago. Where I live, it'll be 30. It's a 40-degree, roughly almost 45-degree drop in temperature collectively. And the colors mean it's above normal. So out ahead of that front, still balmy in Virginia and New England and all the way down to Florida. The Intermountain West, the West in general, is kind of a mixed bag of slightly. It's about average, really, Monday. And that's Wednesday. Notice how, again, like I commented, the colder air is right here with that jet stream flow. This is in the wake of the main cold front today, and all this is more warm air overtaking the central U.S., and that trend will continue through Friday. Again, we're looking at the northern plains and the northeast corner of the country, seeing pretty chilly air. Florida has a stalled front with rain showers and cloud cover, but still nice for them. And really warm, 61 in Denver on Friday, 72 in the Dallas area. And if you look at the temperature trends, last two charts here, Saturday through Wednesday, again, there's a high confidence of very warm temperatures in Texas and through about 2/3 of the U.S., and like I said, that cooler air kind of hanging on in New England. And then if we extend that through Monday through Sunday, about normal in New England, and the warm temperatures continue to dominate much of the U.S. into early January. Thanks for watching this edition of Weather to Watch. It comes out every other day, or as the weather necessitates. Please remember to share this with your friends, subscribe to the channel, or at the very least, like what you just watched. Thanks.